It's not about rules. It's not about religion. It's about loving vertically, horizontally, and doing it actively. But then James comes back with this last part. One more. Go back one. Stop. Doing good works with the humility that comes from wisdom. So we've been talking about how do you jump that gap? How do you jump that? Well, today James is really going to give us a tip for how to do that. And he's going to give us two very important distractors to avoid. Because he goes on to the next, and this is where he gets to the distractors. James 3:14 says this. But, that's the big but. Okay, this is the big but, and I love it. I will not lie. But if you are bitterly jealous, now they're getting it. Oh. If you are bitterly jealous and there is selfish ambition in your heart, don't cover it up with the truth. Don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying. If there is bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your heart, this is going to present as you attempt to jump the knowing and doing. And when I read that, I stopped, put my Bible down, and I said, wow. Right there. It's the story of Thor. It's the story of Thor because beyond all the cool special effects and all that stuff, this story is about two brothers. Two brothers who are both sons of the king. And he has given them incredible gifts, extraordinary talents, and told them at the very beginning of the movie, the very opening scene, you're both destined for greatness. You have the potential for greatness. But they both get distracted. They both get distracted. I introduced to you Loki. Loki is the son of Odin. Odin is the High King. And there's Thor. And Loki and Thor grow up in the king's house. They know they are children of the king. They know they've been given greatness. They know they have the potential. But they get distracted. Loki with the first one, bitter jealousy. Loki begins to get that jealousness in his heart. He feels unworthy. He feels inferior. And he tries to escape that feeling with tricks and deceptions. And he's known as the trickster and the deceiver. And he tries to push the attention off of himself because he's jealous. He's so bitterly jealous. And who he's jealous of is his brother, Thor, the older brother, who gives in to the distraction of selfish ambition. Thor is completely convinced of his own superiority. He feels entitled. He feels like, no, he shouldn't have to listen to anybody else's rules. It's his way or the highway. He is in love with his own ideas. And so you have these two brothers, sons of the king, Loki and Thor, who are perfect images of what James is trying to teach us are the biggest distractors from jumping the knowing and doing it. So what do we learn about that? Well, let's unpack what these two ideas are all about. But before we do that, I want to give you a chance to talk to each other. We do another think, pair, share, and I'm wondering, which of these two distractors do you tend to drift toward? Because if we're honest, both of them are just two sides of the same coin. They're both a comparison game. Either I compare myself to others and I feel inferior, and I choose jealousy. I look around and I'm not like him, I'm not like her. I compare myself and I feel inferior and I feel jealous. Or I'm over here. I look around and I'm like, you know what? I really am the cat's meow. I am all that in a bag of chips. You get this idea that your perspective is better. And you have this selfish ambition. So take a second, talk to each other. Which do you tend to do? Okay, if we were honest with each other, if we were honest when we were talking to each other, we have to admit, we tend to drift one, if not both directions. Some of us oscillate back and forth. But we tend to live in one of these areas. And James is going to teach us this morning very clearly why it's so important to wrench ourselves out of these and get on focus with God. He continues on his passage, James 3:15. It says, "For jealousy and selfishness are not God's kind of wisdom." So, kind of get that. That's kind of common sense. But then he really starts to twist it in. He says, "Such things are earthly," okay, "unspiritual," and demonic. Ow! I didn't write it. Blame him. Ow. Then he keeps going. "For wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind." Wow! That's why I can't get across the knowing doing gap. I've been living here. Wow! You see why I'm like, ugh. It's huge. So this morning we're going to unpack each one of those. And we're going to very intentionally figure out how we move out of these areas. Let's start with jealousy. We're going to jump over to chapter 4 of James, verse 11. And he begins to talk about this idea of judging one another. Remember, we said both of these are about the comparison. Both of these are about looking at others. And this is what he says in that area. This is James 4:11. He says, "Don't speak evil against each other, dear brothers and sisters." Don't be the kind of person who just tears down other people. It starts to really get into that judging. If you criticize and judge each other, then you are criticizing and judging God's law. And what did we say God's law was? Simple. Vertical, horizontal. If you're going to be criticizing others, then you're criticizing God's way of doing things. And this one, I underlined it. I would underline it in your Bible. It's like triple underlined in mine. Ow! But your job is to obey the law, not to judge whether it applies to you. Your job is to say, "Yes, sir," not judge back and forth. God alone, who gave the laws, to judge. He alone has the power to save or destroy. So what right do you have to judge your neighbor? What right do you have to look over there and say, either he is this or she is that or whatnot? Stop it. It's about you. God said, "Do it." Yes, sir, I do it. But so many of us get caught up in this idea of jealousy. And we begin to use it as an excuse for why we won't do what God is calling us to do. Oh, well, because I'm not him, I can't. Because I'm not rich enough, I can't do that. Because I don't have this, then I don't. Because I'm not like her. Paul talks about that. In 1 Corinthians, he says this. Yes, the body has many different parts, not just one part. If the foot says, "I'm not a part of the body because I'm not a hand," that does not make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear says, "I'm not a part of the body because I'm not an eye," would that make it any less a part of the body? And then he goes on and says, if the whole body were an eye, how would you hear? If the whole body were an ear, how would you smell anything? But our bodies have many parts, each part just where he wants it. How strange a body would be if it only had one body part. Yeah, that's strange. Yes, there are many parts, but only one body. The eye can never say to the hand, "I don't need you." The heart can never say to the feet, "I don't need you." And yet we do. We say, because I'm not like Harv, I can't sing. Because I'm not like Jessica, I can't work with you. Because I don't have as much money as, then I can't take that mission trip. Because I don't. And we compare ourselves and we convince ourselves of our own inferiority, and so God, well, just forget it, I'm not going to do what you're calling me to do. The bottom line is this, if you're writing anything down, since I'm not, I won't. Since I'm not, I won't. A lot of us live there. What about the other side? What about Thor? What about selfish ambition? Well, James teaches us about that as well. He says in this, we're going to jump, James chapter 4, verse 13. He says, "Look here, you who say, today or tomorrow we're going to a certain town, we'll stay there for a year, we will do business there and make a profit. How do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like a morning fog. It's here a while, then it's gone. What you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to. In God's perspective, if it's His will, then we will live and do this or that. Otherwise, you are boasting about your own plans, and all such boasting is evil." Strong words. Strong words. And if I were to be open and honest with you guys today, I would admit to you, I've lived there. My way is so important. The way I see things can get so tangled. And I fall in love with my own selfish ambition. I fall in love with the way I want things to go, that I don't say, God, your way is the highway. Your way is the way I want to go. I spent a lot of time with kids, from very young all the way up to teenagers, and I have found there to be a simple human truism, and this is the bottom line. I want to do what I want to do. We want to do what we want to do. When kids come to play, oh, I'm going to play this game, and I've been thinking about it all morning, we're going to play this game. No, I want to play this game. I want to do what I want to do. I want to do what I want to do. And James says that kind of thinking will rot us. It'll keep us from that incredible, abundant life that Jesus has for us. Because it keeps us on this side of the knowing, doing, here. It keeps us from jumping in. I want to do what I want to do. Just doesn't work. But the Bible is very clear that there's a third option. There's a third option, and it looks like this. It's Jesus. Now, let's be real clear and honest, all right? Jesus knows all about the knowing, doing, here. He lived a life just like you and me. A cool life, a great life, a joyous life, a hard life at times. But Jesus came to this point in Matthew 26, where in his human side, he knew, knowing what God wanted him to do. Right there, the cross. He knew. But there was a gap between knowing and doing. And Jesus had this hard, let's not pretend that it was easy, this hard prayer session where he got down and he prayed and he asked his friends to pray for him and he said, God, is there not another way? I know what you want me to do, but please can I not do that? Please can I not do that? He knew. And the word says that Satan came and he tried to tempt him. And I believe that Satan probably tempted him with this. There's this idea of inferiority. Well, Jesus probably, you're not like other people. You're not bold like Peter. I mean, Peter's bold. He'd do this. You're right. Jealousy and thinking and comparing himself to others. The temptation was there. Or what about this? Jesus, you're the Son of God. I mean, you don't have to do this. It could be your way. It could be. I'm sure that Satan tempted him in these two ways, the exact same way that he tempts us. But it comes down to this. Matthew 26:39. I love this passage. I underlined it in my Bible. My Father, if it's possible, let this cup of suffering be taken away from me. Please, God, is there not another way? But, yet, I want your will to be done, not mine. I want your will to be done, not mine. What Jesus is teaching us here is that it takes a shift of perspective. Because this side and this side are all about me. I look at me, and I look at I, and I, and I, and I, and I. It's all about I. It takes a shift of perspective. You may remember back in May, we did the acquiescence series. Peter put it this way: because you say so, I will. Because you say so, I will. Andy Stingley puts it this way: if we see as God sees, we'll do as God says. If we see as God sees, we'll do as God says. It's all about a shift in perspective. Guys, can you come back up here for a second?